Hello.
Yeah, hi Raj.
Hi.
Hi.
Hmm.
We will wait for 5 minutes, so all will
Okay.
join.
Sure.
Hello, hi Viraj sir.
Hi, Viraj.
Hey, Dinesh. Hello, Mr. Raj. How are you? Thank you so much.
I'm good. I'm good. A little under the weather, but all excited for the webinar.
Oh, okay. Hope nothing major.
Nothing major. It's the seasonal, I think, seasonal flu.
Okay. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Good, good. And we are also excited to host you for our summit on 25th.
Sure. Sure.
Very good response. But yeah, interesting. Hello, Aishwarya.
So, Viraj, how would you like to keep the format? I mean, I cover the presentation in the first half, and then we do the Q&A, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right. Understood.
What we had done for the last webinar is we asked participant to put their Q&A in the chat, and
Hmm.
then Dinesh would just like put out the questions
Yeah. Yeah. That's helpful.
across to you. Yeah,
Sure.
so that people do not, I mean, you don't get disturbed.
No one. No problem. We can work it out. I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Uh, Let me know if you are able to see. Okay. This is just a opening slide. I have my presentation later. But I think first is your company introduction, right? So I'll stop sharing, I think.
Yeah, the presentation looks good. I mean, we are able to see.
Okay. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Dinesh will take like 1 or 2 minutes for that, and it's all about you now.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Just a few minutes. Other members are joining.
No problem.
Okay, I think we can start now. Uh, okay.
Yeah, let's get started. People will join in as we
Yeah.
further. So, yeah, we can start off.
Okay. Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all for joining us. On behalf of Nirmiti, I am delighted to welcome you on this session, on building regulatory-ready digital infrastructure for pharma and medtech. Before we begin, let me briefly introduce about Nirmiti. Nirmiti is a healthcare-focused technology solution company specialized in healthcare AI solution, product engineering, and interoperability. The company works with healthcare organizations across areas like EHR, interoperability, AI agent solution, FHIR, and HL7 integration. At its core, Nirmiti focus on building practical, scalable, and compliant technology solutions that help to improve operations and support better healthcare delivery. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Raj Kumar Patra, Vice President and IT Head at Syngene International Limited. Mr. Patra brings over 19 years of experience in digital transformation and regulatory aligned system. He has led large-scale initiatives across quality, regulatory, safety, and R&D, driving operational efficiency, strengthening regulatory readiness. We are excited to have him with us now, and I would like to invite Mr. Raj to take this session forward. Yeah, over to
Thank you
you,
so
Raj.
much. Thank you so much, Dinesh. I hope I'm audible, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So allow me a quick 30 seconds. So sorry, I'm not able to see the screen because I'm in a presentation mode, but do interrupt me if there is any immediate question or a important or a interesting point that somebody in the audience would like to ask, right? So
Yeah.
hello everyone. Very excited and glad to be part of this interesting webinar. It's a very relevant topic, something not very new, something which is very imminent as well as very much relevant for all of us who are working in the life science industry, right? Specifically, pharma, healthcare, and medtech, right? So today's topic for me is building or envisioning the regulatory ready digital infrastructure for the key pharma and the medtech organization. Obviously, this is a initiative that every organization has a digital ready strategy. There is a almost every organization today runs a very clear digital strategy and agenda. In fact, some of the organizations today are operating with a separate digital function to show the focus, to derive the value, and more importantly, build infrastructure and solutions which is ready for the future. So obviously all of these is done with an intent to not only streamline and optimize the current landscape, but also with an intention that you gain competitive advantage, right? Just a quick disclaimer, all the views, opinions, suggestions and recommendations that I share today in the webinar are my own and not necessarily my employer's views. So with that, I would like to switch to my core presentation. Um, Give me just a quick second. Sorry. Yeah. So, Dinesh, if you can please confirm if you're able to see.
Yeah. We are able to
Okay,
see.
very good. So, definitely, it's an imminent challenge for any digital enthusiast, and even from an organization perspective. How do I build a compliant? How do I also envision my overall digital infrastructure, which is not only ready for the future, but also is compliant from 21 CFR Part 11, Annex 11, and various other mandates, right, which can be applicable from a global and local regulatory law. So the main ethos or the main thinking behind building these regulatory ready solutions or the infrastructure is to embed the element of trust, which not only then signals audit readiness, the infrastructure readiness, the digital readiness, but also data readiness, right? So using data as a fabric, using a very robust data governance model right from the beginning at a foundation level, you are then able to define your validated data strategy. You're not only able to look at your entire resiliency that you want to build from an operational point of view, but also end of the day, you also want to prove, right, how it actually translates into a value-based impact, whether it's the efficiency of the submission activities or the quality events or the various type of compliance certificate of analysis activities or any kind of audit readiness findings, whichever dimension you look at, right? The way you invest your clear goals and your foundational design in the data readiness and the infrastructure solutions will then dictate the kind of KPIs that you will be able to turn around for the business, right? So more importantly, I think today's regulatory readiness is also linked to the infrastructure. And as you can already see with every waking day, we are seeing quite a disruption happening in the overall AI ecosystem, right? So business solutions, the backends, the overall data strategy, the overall digital strategy is now becoming more and more infrastructure hungry, right? And that is what is driving. You must have come across the news, like for example, Roche or Lilly, who have gone ahead and signed some multi-billion-dollar deals with organizations like Nvidia and Google. Why is that? I think they are very clearly betting on the future. They are very clearly not shying away in the older strategy where some of these regulated industries were very hesitant, right? We still have banking and finance industries treating its steps with a lot of apprehension, but I think pharma is now becoming a very clear front runner, right? So we definitely have to think of regulatory readiness as an infrastructure problem, right? What kind of the first principle, I think, how you design your guardrails, how you design your resiliency framework, how you design your way in which the various transactions happen on all of these digital solutions is depending on how deep you reach the systems, how well it is designed at a transaction level, right? So it's very important that all of these regulatory solutions are very much compatible to the validation standards, but at the same time has a link, has a dependency to the core infrastructure that is being put together. So today's AI solutions are increasingly realizing that we will have, if we want to offer a very strong business capability, if we want to offer a very good discovery model, or if we want to create a very strong regulatory submission framework, how the workloads can actually provide what the business is looking for, at the same time is able to demonstrate the readiness and compliance to the auditors, right? It's very important that you figure out what kind of regulations apply, what kind of infrastructure or digital landscape that you have, and find the connection, right? So I think it's the point here is to invest time in a pre-designed discussion. Very clear, your digital strategy needs to have that conscious decision of having a all hands design discussion to then understand the complexity of the entire validation landscape. Today, in terms of infrastructure, we are also talking about a plethora of different devices. We're talking about IoT devices, we're talking about edge devices, we're talking about cyber devices. Very clearly, FDA's section 52 524B also gives very clear requirements as to how do you figure out in terms of these edge devices or different type of cyber devices resilience. Basically, when you're preparing the resilience framework, how these need to be compliant, what kind of monitoring standards and control standards do you need to build? Are these creating additional workload? Is it adding a lot of burden, or is it seamlessly integrated to your enterprise IT operations dashboards? Are the things you will need to figure out and understand from a last mile perspective, edge implementation, to a first mile 30,000 view when you're trying to understand and discover all the different devices that exist in an infra landscape, right? The story definitely coming to the third parameter. Earlier, the story definitely was all the pharma and medtech organizations were pretty much heavy on siloed systems, on-prem systems. We had a very clear phase where everything was moving to the cloud. Now, cloud is no longer a blocker. I think it's all about the conversations about workloads, how you design your cloud strategy, how you design your cloud's workload strategy, and the way in which this model interact with the business solution and the transaction you're trying to build, right? So today, a lot of the pharma and the medtech organizations are moving their validated workloads to the cloud-based architectures, right? But then there is an embedence of the CSA principle. There is organizations which do play with the CSP principles, but I think CSA is a lot more compatible and feasible to an agile based way of working, right? And finally, you have to think of value. Infrastructure is not just about going procuring a laundry list of things. It's also about understanding what value will it add? How does it link to the overall digital solution? Will it actually create an impact to my data workloads? Will it actually create an impact to my cyber resilience workloads? Will it actually demonstrate a readiness during an audit and compliance activity? I think these are the things you definitely have to think. It's no longer just a paperless activity, but also about understanding how do you link the value to the data model that you're trying to define. Now, when you when you actually have to define and break down the whole factor of readiness, right? You can actually break it down to a couple of aspects, right? I think we all know all the data integrity standards follow the Alcoa Plus model. So I think it's very important that from an infrastructure perspective, it doesn't violate these standards, right? The way the metadata is controlled or captured from the systems to the way in which the fundamental workload level interaction that happens on the infrastructure both have to talk to each other. And this is what exactly I mean when you actually have to design those data principles or the governance early on, right? So as goes without saying, the entire stack has to be a risk validated model, right? Right from your supply qualifications to your periodic reviews to your equipment qualifications to your environment qualifications, everything needs to be evidenced given the regulated readiness, right? So I think it helps as a team if you're able to think this through, plan these costs, plan the resources in parallel to the actual core activity which you're trying to do, right? Another good important principle when it comes to the regulatory readiness understanding is securing by the design. It's almost like the DevSecOps, if you must have heard about this term. Sorry. The way you design your fundamental features, the way you design your fundamental epic stories, the way you design your fundamental workflows, it has to embed security, which is non-negotiable, right? The way the transactions happen, the way the session management has to happen, the way different type of threat and vulnerabilities are exposed, and the way you're doing your customization and configuration needs to be baked in, right? So it's no longer a problem from a front end perspective, but also when you look at it from overall digital solution infrastructure readiness perspective, this is an important ethos, right? Again, the next principle is obviously the traceability, very much linked. You anyway would be taking care of it because of the 21 CFR and Annex 11 compliance patterns, right? So right from your discovery activities to your development activities to your manufacturing to post marketing, all the workloads that you're designing from the business solution driven activities underlying the infra have to demonstrate these traceability. Otherwise, you are creating loopholes. You are basically exposing yourself, right? Now, it's important when we're talking about the risk-based validation and the traceability and the security, it's also very, very important that there is a structured pattern, there is a version control, and there is obviously ML ready component that is able to interact when it comes to the logging of the different type of activities that happen from a business solution perspective or at a server level, right? So the point here is every point, the design needs to demonstrate how you are embedding the pattern of security along with the data capture, right? And finally, if you're able to get a very good data model and let's say a golden data model structured out as part of a very good and strong data governance design standards, you then link it to whatever type of operational dashboards that you want to create. Today, I mean, I'll not spend more time in telling what kind of dashboard. Each of you must be responsible for different type of KPIs or matrices. You can decide, I mean, the type of way in which you want to slice and dice the data. How is it going to be captured, right? So that's what it means. So these are the key principles that definitely you have to be very clear when you're defining the regulatory readiness that it is a non-negotiable activity, right? When you have to think of a business solution, when you have to think of a digital infrastructure which is compatible, right, to these standards. If not, you have to capture the risks. What are those implications? What are the linked costs? What are the linked implications from these risks that are exposed, right? Now, when it comes to the actual way in which you have to implement these digital infrastructure solutions or the components, you have to look at a layered approach, right? Which actually is not only visible to someone as a competent authority like the auditors, but also demonstrates the trust and the honesty that you're building, or the visibility, transparency that you're building. We all know we are dealing with a lot of applications today, end of the day, when it comes to the scientific domain. You name it, we have a solution out there. This is the experience layer. How you design your principles and apply it to this layer. If you're buying a COTS application, or if you are going for a low code, no code approach, or if you are completely taking a BPM workflow, you will have to think through from those design principles or design angles. Now, you will have to also embed, if it's a workflow driven in a content management platform, the same things apply. How strong is the metadata? How secure is the metadata? How visible or compatible it is to the way in which it needs to be extracted? That needs to be thought through. At the core of everything is the data integrity driven by the data governance model, right? How you manage your master data, how you manage your timestamps, how you are logging the various events, how you are capturing the audit trails, how you have designed your archival and backup strategy, how you have also defined your restoration points and recovery time points, right? For things, it all has to be visible and captured and documented, right? So from all of this, I think integration is a very important concept. I think today we deal with a lot of systems. They may or may not have the necessary data or the features. We are required to think and design data pipelines, integration standards, APIs, whatnot, right? So I think integration is an important thing. It will require what and where you are building these components, what workloads is going to be impacting the infrastructure here, and the way in which the security is to be done. And obviously, you have to think through from a GXP, non-GXP lens, right? And goes without saying, I think trust and the security are the principles. How do you manage your identity? How do you manage your multi-factor authentication, encryption, user privileged access, user management, user provisioning, various things. I think this is a ocean. When you look at it from a enterprise perspective, there are various things to look at. So most of the established product today will offer you this. I think it's very important that as an organization, you have a design ethos and a principle to incorporate this. We have industry standard reports. All you have to do is ensure that they are compliant to it. And finally, if you are from the regulatory background, evidence capture is an important thing, right? But then more importantly, it's not about doing this painstakingly, but also automating it. And for that, you can design the way in which your workloads have to do this, right? So all assurance, all system testing, all different type of qualification testing can be automated, right? Depending on your use case, you can do that, right? So as I've been trying to say, the way in which you think of it from a design principle at a foundation level, you are then able to create a regulatory ready framework, right? Whether it's the infrastructure layer, or it's the experience layer, or it's the middleware layer, whichever one you look at it, right? So, and obviously you have to define the governance standard. You're taking a platform approach, you're taking a product approach. How do you want to do it in a federated manner, right? So operating principle and the governance standard becomes very, very important when you start thinking of it from these angles, right? Now, obviously, there are key capabilities that you need to definitely double click on. That is actually separating the compliance focus, right? At the top, based on a scoring, you have to consider identity management and the multi-factor authentication in all of these components that you're designing, right? You definitely have to prioritize the audit trails management. You design a product, you buy a product, you integrate a product. How is it going to be done, right? You must always also explore opportunity for validating, automating the validation activities. Now, in most of the organizations I've seen, I mean, it's tough one. I mean, may or may not require an investment, but if you're able to do that, wonderful. You can demonstrate that very clearly. Goes without saying, you have to also look at the change control and the deviation compliance, right? Now, backup and restore and periodic review are good to have activities, but it can be done at an executive level, at a stage gate level. When you're trying to launch a multi-year program or a large enterprise solution, you can decide how you want to define those stage gates to prioritize these activities. But more clearly, I think these are the different type of capabilities and controls from a compliance perspective that works hand in hand with the regulatory readiness, right? So it's very important for a digital solution or a digital strategies to think of how the various compliance standards are trackable from a regulatory point of view, how it has to be engineered at the ground level from a backup and recovery point of view, and then how does it slice across the different type of systems, and finally any cyber event, any cyber activity is captured as an evidence, right? Any questions so far, Viraj, Dinesh?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll continue then.
Yeah.
So again, these are just some examples. I really don't want to spend too much time talking about examples. All of us are part of an organization where there is some or the other paperless activity or a digital transformation activity going on. Uh, just as example of how Roche had started its whole journey from the factory level about the digital factory vision, but then that translated into various other things. It clearly expanded into various production dashboards, into various supply chain dashboards, into different type of quality data real time. All of these principles that I explained in my previous slides, they were able to embed or they thought about it in that manner, right? Any company that you pick up, we have a cloud analytics strategy, right? How they want to look at the overall processing time, submission time, the efficiency of the activity, the efficiency of the overall phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 trials, right? How is it also optimizing it, right? Now, some of the medtech companies have also evaluated this. They have also embedded different standard. They have also incorporated the different type of principle that is required to be thought from a digital readiness perspective, right? So these are just some examples. You will find a lot more. Any organization that you pick up, you can easily relate to these principles and the levers that I just shared with you. So it will definitely cut across those dimensions. Now, moving on. I think for MedTech, the very clear digital strategy and the underlying infrastructure is now also taking into account cybersecurity. I think all until all this while, it was all about the compliance to the standards, the way you demonstrate the data capture, the way you demonstrate the different type of data readiness, but with privacy, with encryption, with the data importance, I think cybersecurity became non-negotiable, right? So there are various type of implications and the underlying activities you have to envision when you're thinking of a cybersec resilient model for a medtech digital landscape, right? How do you do your development pipeline in a secured manner using the DevSecOps principles? How do you also look at the different type of component inventory and show that utilization in a much more effective manner? Are you having the pre and the post marketing principles and data capture activities? Different type of patching and monitoring and surveillance activities to the orchestration, right? And then finally, how do you also look at the cross-functional and cross-organization integrations, right? So it's just a schematic of thinking which are the non-negotiables, which are the mandatory parameters to watch, which can be the high priority and the critical ones, right? So if you have any questions, we can deep dive on it. Finally, this is again a sample plan, maybe a 5 to 6 months plan in terms of how you want to look at this digital ready infrastructure roadmap, right? In terms of how you establish the very clear baseline, the design principles you want to embed, which then moves to the architectural patterns that you want to design at a fundamental infrastructure level, right? How do you then demonstrate the evidence capture, automate them, and then report them? right? And then finally, you are adding about all the readiness activities, the data capture, event capture activities to then demonstrating the audit readiness or the regulatory readiness, right? This is just a sample roadmap. You can obviously align to the digital strategy that at your organization you might be having, but underlying these are the moving principles in the way you want to move ahead for a overall digital strategy, right? So with that, I will just end my presentation here, saying that it's it's not just the validation compliance is what is driving the regulatory readiness. It is also the fundamental product architecture readiness, which then dictates the infrastructure readiness, right? So all the points about your data quality, the data governance, the cyber security, the cyber resilience, the evidence automation, the tracking, the monitoring, the various type of traceability activities, reporting activities automatically then become important. And that automatically shows to an auditor, to a management, to a stakeholder who is investing in this digital journey to get the value or derive the value, right? So you are able to demonstrate the trust, you are able to demonstrate the speed, but more importantly, how resilient and strong is this framework from a digital readiness point of view, right? So with that, I will end my presentation here, Viraj, Dinesh, we can move to the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a very insightful session. So yeah, we wait for the questions.
Mhm.
Yeah. So one question that I would like to ask over here is, pharma and devices basically is a very regulated market or
Mm,
companies, and what might be the most common gaps that these organizations face while kind of trying to align their digital strategy and to the new systems with regulations, basically. Because there is EU regulation is different, FDA is different, India is coming
mm,
up with different. So how
mm,
does it really matter? How big of a difference? Or how the
mm,
organizations really prepare for such?
mm.
Because it's kind of every the 3 4 regulatory things are very different, right? So
Sure. So again, taking it from an execution point of view and the way you're designing such, it's a good question, by the way. Um, as an organization, you have to actually do that careful landscape analysis in order to then figure out how well you know your infrastructure landscape, how well you know your digital solution landscape, how well is your process maturity that is cutting across this different type of digital solution, whether it is there or not. But then at the underlying layer, are you able to think of it from these levers, right? So this is my suggested recommendation, or the way in which you demonstrate that readiness, right? So if you are able to unpick and early on, whichever transmission program you want to pick up, you want to go ahead and buy a commercial off the shelf application, then you go through that whole exercise of making sure that they are able to demonstrate and evidence the compatibility to various type of readiness, right, parameters that I just explained. If you are getting into that whole configuration customization phase, then how do you embed that DevSecOps and DevOps model, which then are, is able to apply these principles there. Then when you're trying to deploy that and do the system testing or the assurance activities, how well are you able to demonstrate the readiness? And finally, when you get into the BAU state, how well is it able to comply to the standards? How is it even audit ready? Can it even face the different type of expected unexpected questions, or the ways in which it will be evaluated? I think these are the ways in which you have to think through. So which is the reason why understanding that landscape, breaking it down into that whole data transaction level, linking it to your data governance model, and then figuring it out. Today, earlier it was cloud workload design. Now it is the whole AI workload design, or the actual end infra which will handle this transactions analysis, right? So that's
yeah,
how organizations look at it.
yeah. Just because you touch this AI thing, and because currently, and if you don't have AI integrated, then you're missing something. If that is the sentiment that is going on, and
Mm,
um, how is pharma or med device companies reacting to this? I mean, from a
mm,
regulatory point of view, we are still not very sure that, okay,
mm,
it can help, but are pharma companies really open enough to
mm,
adopt these AI tools in their day-to-day workflows is
mm.
something that might be interesting to know as well.
Very relevant question once again. So it's a question that is being debated in every boardroom and in every project room, right? Discussion. The short answer is there is no magic AI solution that will just come and sit and make it work. Which is the reason the emphasis that I'm making on the way you are strongly defining your secured data governance and the data transaction layer and linking it to the workload readiness. These two funnel the AI to behave in the way you want, or maybe test the true potential of a AI model, right? You go ahead, a lot of partners will come and pitch that we have solved this problem, we have solved this ecosystem. Fundamentally, it will again roll back to the way in which you are defining your data landscape, right? A couple of years ago, we were trying to look at different type of use cases from a predictive analytics point of view. We very soon realized that without a structured and an enterprise data lake and a very strong data governance model and a common data model, all of this will be fruitless. I mean, you all I think know that AI can hallucinate, and how do you even do that? And
Yeah,
in a organization like MedTech and Pharma, where the regulation implications or the regulatory implications are so high, imagine
yeah,
what a hallucinated data set can do and impact your overall earnings or your company's image, right? So I think it's important that you focus on the foundation. There are obviously many different options available from an AI perspective, which can then work accordingly. You as an organization need to definitely have an AI strategy. It's not like you need to stop yourself from not doing it, but I think there are things to solve first from regulatory readiness.
yeah. Yeah, there is one more question from my end, but we'll take one from the
Sure.
audience. Kritika is asking, how do you maintain audit-ready data when integrating with legacy systems?
Uh, you mean audit trail from the legacy system, or audit trail capture when the legacy information is moving to the new
Yeah,
system? I'm
so
sorry if you
because
can.
yeah, what is going on is I mean, these pharma companies are like more than a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades old, right? So they already
Mm,
have their own
mm,
legacy systems inbuilt. So
correct.
while they shift or while they what we're discussing about digital transformation of the systems that are going on, right? So how do
Mm,
you kind of maybe gel between like a new system and an old system without
mm,
making sure that okay, even though we're integrating or implementing the new systems, we do not touch or have
mm,
I mean any issues with the legacy system. That might be one, and we need to
mm,
maintain an audit right while updating
mm.
these things. So how
So
do you
I will
maintain that?
answer it in this way. Business is the owner of the data, whether it's legacy system or the new system. It's very important and prudential when you're actually designing the data governance model during a regulatory transformation or a digital transformation exercise. You consciously include them in this design discussion. So pertinently, this will apply to the migration strategy. So how you design your migration strategy, how you qualify and test your migrations, and then ensure that the old data moves into the new data with the proper audit trail, timestamp, and a justification will dictate the data readiness.
Okay, nice. Hope Kritika, it kind of it answered your question. If not, then please feel free to just unmute and uh, ask again. Cool. That means it answered. So one more question I had was we just mentioned about evaluating external rec uh, technologies, for
Partners, yeah,
implementing
OEMs.
partners, right?
Mm,
So how open enough are these pharma or med
mm,
devices companies to really uh, partner with external vendors or
mm,
partners
mm, mm,
to really strengthen their internal teams? Because not all companies have in-house efficient
Yeah.
and up to, I mean, with latest I mean, technologies team, right? So
Hmm.
we have seen a reluctance many times to onboard a partner, specifically on tech
Hmm.
side, because data is always super important for all pharma med devices companies.
Hmm.
But how are is this changing, and are people open enough for these partnerships?
I think you kind of answered the question. So earlier, yes, you're right. A lot of them were very closed ecosystem. Now, with the changing landscape and the quick realization that not all capabilities, when you're thinking of all of these modern digital capabilities, exist in house. So you have
Yeah.
to try out with different type of partners who bring not only a very rich and diverse capability, but are also
Mhm.
able to quickly apply them. They come with a vast set of knowledge where they have already solved this problem and did it elsewhere, and they can apply it quickly rather than you breaking your head, going through that painless design exercise, and then not being able to figure out, right? So today's regulated companies are a lot more open, and this is the reason
Nice.
why they are also doing hackathons. Sorry,
Correct.
is someone speaking? Okay, so they're also inviting different type of idea use cases. They are trying to do the right thing with the right purpose, with the right impact. So they're now much more open. And given data is the biggest strength or the guiding factor, it's a lot more important that you do it in the right direction rather than getting it wrong just because of a ethos or a principle of not being open.
Nice. Yeah, it's really good to know that people, I mean, it's changing a lot because new tech, because I know some one of the companies who I kind of have interacted. I mean, their IT heads, and they're like as old as the company, so
Mhm.
it's pretty rigid um, for change from some of the companies. But yeah, it's good to know that. And this is for Indian pharma med device companies as well, right? I mean, it's everything is
Everywhere, everywhere. In fact,
okay. Nice.
the Indian aggregators and Indian players are now a lot more quick in acting because they are now having good budgets from a digital perspective. They are now trying to catch up. They are also trying to follow the global model. So it's no longer a distinction between Indian ecosystem or a global ecosystem. There are players with right capabilities, both present locally and globally. So no reason for you to think of it, even if you are a local player.
Nice. And more and more number of R&D units are being set up in India. That is what
Correct,
we are kind of reading, where it kind of opens up these opportunities for kind of young
correct,
startups who are building in that space to kind of go
correct.
and pitch and talk to them.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, we'll discuss more on in our summit as well, in
Sure.
more uh, detailed version. But just for the audience over here, who might be the right people or right stakeholder inside pharma who these startups can actually go and talk to, or kind of just have a conversation with them to understand the requirements, and if there is a collaborative opportunities.
Mm, it's a very open-ended question. I mean, every organization has
Yeah.
their own digital set of stakeholders and representatives. But the best thing would be to reach out to a digital partner. If it's an
Okay.
overall R&D digital partner or a functional digital partner, I think the best way to start would be to talk to them and understand what challenges they are going through, what initiatives they've already made, where are they on the digital journey, how much mature they are now overall industry wise. I think these are the things you can definitely deliberate with these digital partners and digital heads. That can be a good start for any transformation linked to this.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah,
that clears.
not a problem. Good
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving us valuable insights. Like as we learn today, regulatory readiness is no longer just about compliance. It's a
Yeah.
core part of infrastructure.
Yes.
With evolving regulation, connected system, and cloud adoption, the success depends on building compliance into the technology from the ground up.
it should be demonstrable. It should be automatically
Yeah.
evidenced. It should be easily
Yes.
reportable and traceable, right? It's no longer it's non-negotiable, right? You don't have
Yes. Yes.
to think and talk about it. You have to embed it now, right? So
Yeah.
that's the shift I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So. So yeah. So now I think we can conclude this webinar. So thank you so
Okay.
much, Raj.
Yeah, I
To
thoroughly enjoyed, and I look forward to
yeah.
participating in the event later this month. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you,
Sure.
Mr. Raj.
Sure.
And just a quick thing over here that if we get to hear from any participants about any questions that they might think of later on,
Sure.
you might just drop an email and then
Uh,
maybe
sure. So I think
just an email from
Viraj
our
has my
end. And
coordinates.
yeah,
Absolutely, not an issue.
Yes.
Viraj has my coordinates. He can definitely, I think, coordinate with me to get the questions answered. Not an
yeah,
issue.
it would be purely email channel, not
Sure,
an issue.
sure.
Okay. Once again, thank you so much for being on the webinar. It was amazing, insightful, and hoping to host you for the summit and also such webinars from different topics where we get insights
Sure.
on from medical devices from you. And great. Thank you so much once again
Thank you.
for your
Thanks
time.
everyone, and happy weekend.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Happy.
Sure.
Thank you all for joining us. Bye bye.